in the day-to-day, news filtered that a court judgment was obtained to restrict protesters against bad governance to certain locations. And a lot of people are wondering, how binding is this order? So I have a lawyer who is going to be assisting to interpret this outcome to us. Barrister Festus Ogun is live with me. Good evening, Festus Ogun. How are you doing tonight?
Thank you very much for having me.
So sorry, and thank you so much for granting us this avenue, because I had to keep you in the office till late. You are supposed to be home already, but it's a very important and critical time. National history again, where tomorrow is important again. There's a protest already planned and slated for tomorrow. So there have been so much forth and back, different people having different things to say about the protest. There is pro and anti, pro-government, anti-government. And it looks like the government has already sponsored a lot or paid a lot into the pro. Whereas the anti feel that regardless of anybody not even paying us, the hunger is sponsoring us because we are hungry, we want to go on the street. So a court order was obtained today, according to the news. And then it is said that protesters have been limited to certain locations. So people are asking, how binding is this? So I said, okay, let me get you a lawyer to comment on it. So what's your comment? Did you hear the news, or am I the person telling you for the first time tonight?
Well, I think since yesterday evening, I've read with complete understanding the orders granted by a trial court here in Lagos by a suit instituted by the Honorable Attorney General of Lagos State. After condemning the approach of the Lagos government, news filtered in this afternoon that the Honorable Attorney General of Ogun State, a senior advocate of Nigeria, has
similarly approached
the court in Ogun State, and has equally obtained an order restraining protesters or confining protesters to certain locations within the state. This evening we've also read that a federal high court, a high court of the Federal Capital Territory in Abuja, has also granted an ex parte order restraining protesters to Moshood Abiola Stadium. Now, we just have to, first of all, make it very clear that those orders, they are court orders, they are to be obeyed, they are to be respected, but they are unconstitutional. They are unconstitutional. And those court orders, whether we like it or not... How
are they unconstitutional?
Yes, because whether we like it or not, those court orders are a violation of human rights. Why do I make this very bold and categorical submission? You see, the answer lies in the fact that under section 39, 40, and 41 of the Constitution, the right to protest is guaranteed and protected. This is a constitutional democracy. We are not just running any kind of democracy in Nigeria. We are running a constitutional democracy where the way and manner the government operates has to be guided by the dictates of the Constitution. The Constitution has said, look, as a citizen, you have the right to freedom of expression under Section 39. Section 40 guarantees your right to freedom of association, while 41 guarantees your right to freedom of movement. Putting all of this together, you can see that you have a right to protest, where you voice out your grievances, where you come together. I'm going somewhere.
Okay.
Now, if the Constitution has provided for this, there is no law that empowers the court to grant orders that will restrain the exercise of this right. The only thing that was provided for under Section 45 of the Constitution is that, look, these rights are not absolute. No one is doubting that. you can restrict this right through the enactment of a law under Section 45. It says the National Assembly or the State Assembly can enact a law that will derogate from this right. And that law that is enacted has to be reasonably justifiable in a democratic society. That law, that constitution under Section 45, did not say that you can restrict the right of citizens to exercise their fundamental right to be on the street. It didn't say you can restrict it through a court order. It has to be through a law. So looking at it here or there, I do not think that those orders are constitutional. And clearly, those orders are restricting the rights of our people to exercise the rights of our people to exercise their rights. So, looking at it here or there, it is unconstitutional, and the others are a violation of human rights.
So, are you saying in the instance, for instance, that if the government feels that the exercise of your right at this point is likely to violate or breach or undermine national security, they cannot therefore go to court and get an order just for the sake of making sure that law and order is not broken or is breached?
There is no reasonable suspicion. There is no reasonable basis to have warranted approaching the court in the first place. Under our law, the law that I know, I practice as a human rights lawyer, so I know all of these things. The law I know is that you can only go to court to restrain a person who is about to violate your rights. There is nothing under the Constitution that empowers the government to approach a court to restrain a person from exercising his rights. Now, let me tell you, this is a dangerous precedent. We are setting a dangerous precedent. Tomorrow, if the NLC is to protest, they go to the same court to get a court order to say, look, you should not protest. Oh, you should. They will restrict the NLC maybe to their headquarters, that this is the only place.
Only to their secretariat.
To their secretariat, that no, this is
the only place. So you can't go beyond the confine of your secretariat.
Now, interestingly, these court orders that we see around are not capable of restricting our people from coming out tomorrow en masse to demand for a better country. I will tell you why.
Okay.
The court orders are largely against unknown persons. For instance,
there are no defendants in the suit, for instance.
The court order obtained in Ogun State does not have Festus Ogun as a defendant. The court order obtained in Lagos has no Festus Ogun as a defendant. So those court orders are not binding on me. So the same way, if your name was not listed on the orders that were obtained, then you are not bound by those orders. You are not bound by those orders. So that means that implies that those orders are nebulous. They are largely vague, because how do I define an unknown person? I'm not an unknown person. You are not an unknown person. My parents are not unknown person. My siblings, my friends are not unknown person. They are known persons. So
it is not a charge brought against. It is not a charge brought against any specific person or group.
It was not specified. You cannot.
It's just it's just another given in the air.
Look. Exercise of fundamental right is personal. There is no vicarious liability in exercising right. You cannot sue me and use me in a representative capacity to restrict the rights of another person. For example, there was, in the order that was obtained from the Lagos trial court, there was an order restraining Sonyaolu Juwon, in brackets, take it back. You cannot restrain a person, or you cannot restrain a group of persons through another person. There is no representative capacity when it comes to exercise of fundamental rights. It is personal. So the point we are making is that, given that the majority of our people, millions of Nigerians that are going to be on the street tomorrow, were not listed as a party to those orders, to those suits, then the orders are not going to be enforceable on them. They are
on
not
any
binding on them.
specific person.
They were unspecific. Look at the one that was obtained in Abuja. They listed Omoyele Sowore. They listed Michael Adenola, and I think 2 other persons. Then we had unknown persons. So that means that those court orders, even though we are still challenging the constitutionality of those court orders, we are not talking about the validity. We are talking about the constitutionality. Of those orders. Yes, whether they are aligned with the spirit and letters of our law. We are now saying that, look, let's even assume without consideration.
Or whether the judges are making new laws.
Whether we like it or not, the point we are making is that, look, these court orders, we have them in place. Assuming that they are even valid, they are constitutional. You cannot enforce a court order against a person that is not a party to the suit. If you are not a party to a suit, I cannot bring a court order to say you must comply. Once I'm not a party to a suit,
it's not
the
against
court orders are not binding on you. Therefore, we are saying that the court orders that were, obtained to restrict the protesters are only binding on those that were listed. But if they've gone ahead, like we've seen in Lagos and Abuja, to list unknown person, then it is nebulous, because who is an unknown person? The protesters that I know that will come out tomorrow are not ghosts. They are not unknown person. They are citizens of Nigeria whose rights are guaranteed under Chapter 4 of the Constitution. They have their NIN, they have their ID card, they are identifiable person. So if you don't list me as a party to the suit, how do you expect me to comply with the court order? That is not all. 2, we are not also going, a lot of our people are not also going to be affected in any way by the court order, because you cannot expect compliance of an order of court when the person sought to be bound by that order has not been served. As of today, I'm going to protest tomorrow by the grace of God. I do not have a copy of the order, so it can't be binding on me. You can't tell me that there is a court order against me. I'll say, please, have you served me? Even if you go to court to say, look, this person, you want to cite him for contempt. Contempt of what? A court order that has not been served on me? Even if you serve me the court order, is my name included? So it's an effort in vain. And we must be very careful at this point. We have to be vigilant. This is a dangerous precedent that the APC regime is setting. Once they take away our right to protest on the streets, because as under Section 39, you have the right to freedom of expression, and under Section 40, you have the right to freedom of movement. The same way a motorist has the right to freedom of movement is the same way I have a right to freedom of movement. You have a right to freedom of movement to your place of work. I have a right to freedom of movement to move from wherever I am, to process from wherever I am to wherever I'm heading to. So nobody is disturbing anyone. So I do not subscribe to the view that protesters are blocking the way. No, they are not blocking the way. The same way you have the right to move about is the same way I, as a protester, have the right to freedom of movement on the street. So if you are saying, look, you have to go to Freedom Park before you protest, is it a carnival? The purpose of the protest is defeated. It's defeated because you are just in Freedom Park singing, gyrating, complaining. People are not feeling it. That is not the essence of the protest. The essence of the protest is for people to feel it. Citizens have to see it real time, that people are dissatisfied. Is it a carnival? Is it a rally that you want us to be confined in a park? You want us to go and sit in a stadium to be demonstrating? That is not what we want. And the law does not permit for that. The law didn't say, in fact, there is no law that empowers the government to restrict a protest into a particular location. So if I'm calling you from Badagry, and I want to exercise my right to freedom of expression and freedom of association,
I can't do it until I get to Freedom Park.
I still have to come to Freedom Park. We are talking about people that cannot afford a daily bread. Where would they get the money to come from Freedom Park? For example, in Ogun State, for me to protest, I will have to leave Ijebu Waterside, somewhere in Ijebu Waterside, just because I want to exercise the fundamental right that was freely given to me by the Constitution.
You will not have the right to express it until you get to where they have now
Until I get,
designated
so
for
it
you.
is clearly a violation of human rights. The court orders are violating our human rights. It is just too painful that the judiciary, that happen to be the last hope of the common man, seem to be the last hope of the common man at this time. It is lamentable. It is lamentable. Unfortunately,
Well,
this is where we found ourselves. But we must resist this tendency. If we don't, we are finished. That's the truth. We are finished completely if we don't resist it.
well, I just wanted to get that clarity with you tonight. I don't intend to prolong it beyond the necessary because you also have to go home. I understand. But lastly, Barrister, if people decide to come out tomorrow, and then all of the things that the government has put in place somehow, for instance, they have empowered police officers. The policemen also, I mean, I remember, for instance, that the IGP has already had his own meeting advising people not to bother to protest at all because it is not necessary. Using the soldiers to also do show of strength on the road, like, and then also a lot of people are coming out to say, oh, please do not protest, there's no need for it, all the intimidations and everything. The scare now is if it degenerates or gets hijacked, which is what the government is claiming, right? So what are the chances that the law will still be on the side of the people in case any of the things the government has predicted happens tomorrow?
Why was the protest organized by the pro-government rabble rousers? Why were they not hijacked? There was protests scattered all over Abuja, Lagos, Warri, and the rest of these places on Monday. Roads were blocked. There was no hijack by anyone. The Eagle Square that
They were
the
even
minister
protected by
for
Mopol in some
the minister for
instances.
FCT said, look, you cannot protest in Eagle Square until you come for permission, until you apply and you pay fees and all of that. That same Eagle Square was used by pro-government protesters or anti-protest protesters. Yet the honorable minister is yet to provide us with the application letter that was written, the fees that was paid, and the rest of that. So we should not deceive ourselves. Oh Lord, we cannot continue to deceive ourselves. No one is going to hijack the protest but the government. If the protest, God forbid, is hijacked, then we know who we would question. Protesters in our constitutional history we've always been peaceful. But it is the government that has always unleashed violence on protesters. And look, the greatest violence that the government has started already is restricting people from exercising their rights. That's the greatest of all violence. So I believe that, look, we are going to be peaceful. We will demonstrate peacefully for the 10 days. Hopefully, the government will not elongate it for us. The government should restrain themselves from these undemocratic moves that they've started already. If tomorrow I say, look, I am not going to Freedom Park, I'm going to start my protest from a particular destination.
So I can't even stay in my house and protest now with this order.
I mean, so there is an invitation to anarchy. The court orders are going to lead to breakdown of law and order invariably. Because if any police arrest a person for protesting elsewhere, then there is an invitation to anarchy. So you can say that the government is bringing this upon themselves. But on our part, we are not going to back down despite the threat, despite the intimidation. We believe the only way we can save this country is through struggle. We cannot take this for too long. We no longer can take this. We've been cheated for too long. We've been dehumanized for too long. We've been oppressed for too long. We've been taken for granted for too long. So now people are saying enough is enough. The government is running helter-skelter. Where are they all this while? Why have they not been holding emergency meetings over issues of insecurity? Go to the street of Lagos. Look at the policemen that we have. I can see soldiers are all over Abuja, yet Sambisa forest has been overtaken completely by armed bandits. Look at our forest. Yet they are doing show of force against us. So I think that if there is any disruption to this protest, the government should be blamed, nobody else.
Barrister Festus Ogun, thank you so much for your time. I have to let you go now because
thank you very much for having me.
It's still a long day ahead tomorrow. Thank you
Sure.
so much, everybody who stayed through to listen to this. Please share the video so that people can learn about the perspectives to the order that is flying around right now. Thank you so much, everybody. Tomorrow is another day. We'll bring you all the reports from all the places where the protests are going to be happening. Thank you so much.